So, according to reports this morning, the restraint is going to be across the board, from defence to intelligence to infrastructure, also looking at lowering the growth rate of the NDIS to between that lower level of 5 to 6%. Can that be achieved?
Well, it's disappointing they're starting there when really what they should be starting with is the corruption. We know that through the CFMEU Labor cartel, $15 billion of taxpayers' money at least has been handed to organised crime. I'd be stopping that before I stopped certain other programs. I'd stop the corruption in the NDIS. The NDIA is estimated that's around 10% or around $5 billion per annum. Stopping the corruption first is more important than, of course, going through and looking at where prudent savings need to be made. These are easy decisions. Stop the corruption, stop pouring debt petrol on the inflation fire if you want to see a change.
Instead, they're also looking at winding back the capital gains discount that you're aware of. Bernie Fraser, he said yesterday that it should be cut completely, but it's still not going to change supply. Even Treasury admitted that yesterday.
Yeah, well, we've now had a shocking acknowledgement. Increasing taxes isn't going to increase or incentivise new housing to be built. Sort of duh. The reality is we've all known that. Labor's just using this as a revenue measure because they want to take more control over Australians' lives. And this has been clear, I think, to everybody every step of the way. But Bernie Fraser was right about one thing. There is a cartel, but the cartel that operates is not the one that he's talking about. It's the one between industry super funds, the unions and the Labor Party to make sure that the cash keeps flowing. And, of course, there's graft and cartel kickbacks every step of the way, including the $15 billion given to organised crime by the CFMEU Labor cartel.
Also, and look, I'm no Einstein, but I would have thought that if certain advantages are taken away, owners of homes will just raise rents, won't they, to make the most of their investment?
Absolutely, the costs always get passed through to the renters, and that's always the challenge. A lot of the proposals that are being put forward thinking you're going to punish investors just means less homes, which means that more people are competing for fewer available properties for rent. That means prices go up. That's why what Labor is so far proposing amounts as a housing tax, and particularly a housing tax on rents.
On capital gains, and there have been claims of hypocrisy here because you've spoken in the past about an intergenerational injustice when it comes to capital gains tax. I asked you about this last week, Tim, but Labor's no doubt going to keep reminding you of this, these past comments. Have you changed your view?
I'm quite happy to be reminded because what I highlighted was the same as, by the way, what Paul Keating has highlighted. It's what Bill Kelty has highlighted. And what's the point? The top marginal tax rate is too high. It's at 47 cents in the dollar. That's too high. And I said we should cut that. And of course, Jim Chalmers' answer is let's raise other taxes to get up to the 47 cents in the dollar. This bloke does not understand his portfolio. He's a passenger in it. When you've got Bill Kelty, Paul Keating and Tim Wilson on the same page. It says something pretty shocking and indicting on Pyro Jim and his agenda, which is to raise higher taxes on Australians.
The points about capital gains tax, though, do you not think now that there is not a generational unfairness when it comes to that particular tax?
Well, there's a serious issue where the only thing that young Australians have to sell, which is their physical and intellectual labour, is being taxed at 47 cents in the dollar. I've said that consistently because there is a problem there. That is the intergenerational unfairness, which is associated with the high rate of income tax. With the rate of income tax. And that's what my book actually says. It's just that Pyro Jim likes to circulate out certain sections of it, thinking it's going to boost his argument. Jim, I want to make it clear. I am quite happy to remind everybody that I think 47 cents in the dollar is punitive.
Okay. Yeah, but just on capital gains tax, you don't think that's unfair anymore?
Well, I think the income tax is unfair, and it's the differential rate between the two that is unfair because you have a situation where income tax is too high. That's what my book says. That's what I believe. That's what Bill Kelty believes. That's what Paul Keating believes. The only person who thinks that we should be raising taxes in this environment is Pyro Jim, so he's got more debt petrol he can pour onto the inflation fire.
I'm out of time, Tim, but I do have to ask you, I've been asking everybody today about this alleged threat that happened at the Lodge last night, forcing the Prime Minister to evacuate. Have you got a thought on that this morning?
Well, I just wish the Prime Minister and his family safety. I don't think that violence is ever the answer, and it concerns me greatly that no matter what political stripe somebody has, that we could have such risks. It's not something we're used to. It should be anathema to the Australian way of life, and it's certainly something that I don't want to see tolerated or accepted.